we'll be hearing a presentation from DJ McKinnon, who we'll introduce momentarily, from Atlantic Development, who will be giving us an outline for a proposed project on the North Quincy T Station parking lot. I'm not going to waste any time here. We can get right into it. This is just the forefront. As you know, nothing has been submitted to the planning department yet, so this is just a project in concept, and you're at the forefront of that tonight. So thanks again for coming, and I'm going to pass it along to DJ, who will introduce his team and present to you the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Ian. And I'd also like to introduce who's going to be up here with me as well, Lauren Jesnecki from the Bizzuto Group. We're doing this as a joint venture between the Bizzuto Group and Atlantic Development, so I want to make sure we introduce Lauren. In addition to that, I did want to give a quick introduction to some of our team, which is here. We have standing under the basketball court, which he actually spent many years at a basketball court. So that's a very appropriate spot, Dave. People from Quincy would recognize you. That's Dave Mahoney. Dave is our local counsel who's helping us on this project. We also have Julie Perlman over here helping check people in. Taylor Howell up here with the PowerPoint. And then over near the infrastructure landscape, we have Josh Swirling, Matt Merber, Mark, I always get Mark Wixt, okay? And then at the transportation side, we have Giles Ham. Actually, Giles is over grabbing a sandwich right now, but he's close to the transportation side. And then at the architecture side, we have Leeview Marza and Chris Lazard. So that's our whole team that's here. What I'm going to be doing is walking through a bit of a PowerPoint to give about a 10-minute overview. Lauren's going to help me with this. After we give the overview, we're actually going to break this into a workshop format, and that's why we have the different disciplines. So we're going to actually ask people to break up into roughly groups of a third and go to each one of these sections. So it's probably best if people closest to each section start in that area. So we'll have roughly a third that'll go over to the infrastructure landscape, about a third to the transportation, and about a third to the architecture. They'll get an overview of what they're going to be speaking with in those different disciplines, and then we'll actually rotate, so you'll get a chance to go to each one of those sections. So that's why I introduced that group. So with that, why don't I just start, and we'll get into the PowerPoint itself. We can just move right along to the next slide, please, Taylor. So we've done the introductions. You've met all three counselors that are here, the development team.
I didn't shout out Nina Liang, Counselor at Large.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm here as a resident of North Quincy.
Okay. Does everybody know Nina? She's in the second row here. Sorry about that. And next we're going to do, we're going to be doing a bit of an overview of our designation. We're going to give some examples of transit-oriented development. We are going to go through some concept plans for the proposal. And then, as I had mentioned, we're going to break down into these workshop tables so that we'll have 3 20-minute sessions in the various disciplines. And then during those sessions, we're actually looking for input, questions, comments, so that at the conclusion of that, we can then do a recap and collect all that information and have a discussion about that. So if we can go to the next slide, Taylor. So on the proposal itself, we're starting off with a property. As most people know, it's the North Quincy MBTA station site. It's roughly a 7-acre parking lot today with about 852 parking spaces. When the MBTA put out the RFP for this property, one of the requirements is to replace the 852 parking spaces in a new garage that they would like us to get in place sooner than later. And as part of the process, it started basically last July 2015, where they issued the RFP. From there, we all submitted bids in November of 2015. And then in April, they awarded the designation to our team of Bizzuto in Atlantic. So that's what kind of gets us to the point that we're at now to be able to finally discuss this proposal. If we go to the next slide, let me actually just switch here. I think most people know what the site is. Okay. So kind of in the larger scale here, we've got the expressway out in this direction, the Neponset River Bridge, Hancock Street, and then the principal site itself right at the North Quincy MBTA station. But we'll go to the next slide. And now, if we're looking at this slide, we've got Hancock Street running on the bottom, East and West Squantum Street in this area, and then outlined in yellow is the property itself. It's roughly the 7-acre parking lot. I'm sure most people are very familiar with it. Traffic light entrance right in this location. We can go to the next slide. And our proposal is to go forward with, the new term that people are using is transit-oriented development. I was actually speaking with some people earlier tonight, and the interesting thing is, if we go back about 60 years in Quincy, transit-oriented developments are actually much more of a way of life back then. And then with the advent of the expressway getting completed, cars becoming, typical form of transportation, we spent the last 60 years building roadways and parking lots and things like that, and really failed to invest and advance our transportation facilities along with that. The MBTA handles about 1 million people a year in this region. They're at a point where they really want to reinvest, do it in a better way, but as part of that, would like to take some of these locations, particularly these big parking lots, and use them as a way to raise revenue for the T, but create a new opportunity for people to live at these locations and experience, take advantage of the transit-oriented locations. So some of the principles that go along with that, they start out with the smart growth development by building on previously disturbed property. In this case, it's a large parking lot. Promoting the multimodal transportation by using the MBTA, using the green design principles, which we will be doing. And then as part of that, using this to help improve public transportation by increasing the funding to the MBTA for upgrades. To explain that a little bit, in our case, when the T put out the RFP, one of the basic parameters was to replace the parking that's there. And today, that's really all the property does, is serve as a big parking lot. So by replacing the parking in a garage, it opens up the balance of the property to do other things. And that's what our proposal is all about, some of the other things that we can do on the property in addition to just parking a large number of vehicles there. At the same time, we lease the property from the MBTA and pay them rent over a 99-year term. And what they're doing with that rent, which we pay them, and we'll get into the numbers, but we pay them tens of millions of dollars in rent, that actually gives them the revenue which they're looking to then use to reinvest in the T. We all know that they need to reinvest. We all know there's a lot of work that needs to be done to improve the T. One of the challenges is coming up with a source of that revenue. So by taking this approach, we can provide what we believe is nice housing, a nice environment for the neighborhood, but also provide a lot of the critical revenue that the MBTA needs. In addition, we're looking to improve the commuter parking options with the new garage facility. And then as we move over to some of the other elements of a transit-oriented development, we are looking to create bike storage. We're also looking to create bike lanes. We'd like to improve access to the T, not only for people that are going to be driving there, but people in the neighborhood that are going to be walking, as well as people that will be commuting on bike to get to the T station. Some of the other elements you're seeing in transit-oriented development, and again, this is all an effort to limit the use of vehicles by people, is to provide and promote car sharing, things like Uber and Lyft, which we know are becoming more popular, but in addition to that, providing zip cars on the site so that people that would live here have an opportunity to use the zip cars along with the public transportation and not have the need to own vehicles. We're also encouraging the pedestrian activity through a lot of the design and various amenities that will be proposed. And then using this innovative parking use and design, we're also going to be providing night and weekend parking in the MBTA garage for residents on our site, as well as the safe-covered MBTA parking garage. So that's kind of the brief overview of the transit-oriented development approach. And then why don't we move on to the next slide, Taylor? And what I'd like to do now is I introduced Lauren earlier. The Bizzuto company is based down in the DC area and has had a lot of experience with transit-oriented development. So Lauren is going to walk through a couple of developments down in the DC area that they were involved from a development standpoint and an operation and management standpoint, and let her do that now.
Thank you, DJ. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. The weather obviously is so terrible, and so I appreciate you guys making the time to join us. As DJ mentioned, the Bizzuto company has worked on many mixed-use transit-oriented development projects in the greater Washington, D.C. area, and we were inspired by 3 projects that were highlighting here. The first of which is Monroe Street Market. So this is a mixed-use project in the northwest section of DC. The key features to this project that we thought were really comparable and relatable to the North Quincy site is the transit that literally runs immediately adjacent to the residential, which you can see here. So the tracks of the train are here, and everything in white, the kind of the white roofs, are the residential mid-rise buildings. So not only is it incredibly proximate to transit, but you have a mixed-use component, so ground floor retail wrapping all of the buildings, and then there's the residential units on top of that. You can get a sense of it here. There's kind of more of a brick facade on this property. On this building here, it's a little bit more traditional. So varying the architectural styles is another technique that we use there to really break up what is a fairly large project with about 500 units total. Oh yeah.
Sorry, just going to steal the microphone for a second. So Maple, our translator, has arrived. We have one person that's using translation services. Does anybody else need translation help? If so, just let us know, because we have plenty of other headsets. Sorry about that.
The next project is called Market Commons. So this is in Northern Virginia. Also transit-oriented. The metro is just a block from here. And the interesting things that we found about this project that also continues to inspire the concept plans for North Quincy. You see the residential units that are here, and then this side, a little hard to see, a little dark, but that's actually a garage entrance to a 1,200 car garage. So really big parking facility. This is an aerial view that's basically completely covered and surrounded by either residential and parts of the building, retail. There's a large Crate and Barrel, big box retailer there. So again, some commonalities to what we're working with on the North Quincy site. And then the last project, the Kingsley, this is in Alexandria, also Northern Virginia. This is a single, an entire block, really, and the project, again, here's some of the similar themes, but residential above retail. This happens to have a large grocery anchor in the bottom. It's seamlessly designed in, so it's just another storefront along the street front, and residential. And amongst all the different projects, this is a little bit more traditional with brick and some of kind of picking up on some of the local architecture. That obviously the project before is a little bit more modern, but in this style of sort of having ground floor retail, residential above, you can really pick up on any of the architectural themes and sort of vary it. And given how wide and long the site is, we're hopeful to do that on the North Quincy project. So with that, I'll turn it back to DJ.
Great. Thank you very much, Lauren. And as part of the workshops, we do have some enlargements of these photos, which we can get into a little bit more detail at that time. So with that, we can move on to the next slide, which kind of brings us back to North Quincy. So what we're looking at here is, this is one component of the proposal. It's actually a structure with residential above and retail below. We are looking to get more feedback from people. We think the idea of having the retail at ground level, potentially restaurants, shops, those type of things, makes a lot of sense, and we keep hearing from people that seems to be a direction they'd like to see us go to help connect with the neighborhood in a better way. We're getting a lot of suggestions on the type of retailers, so the more information, the more feedback we can get from folks on that end, we would welcome that as well. But it helps to show that, as opposed to just doing multifamily apartments, we're trying to activate that ground level, make it much more pedestrian friendly. And this just helps to show, really coming in just a little bit across from the high school on the Hancock Street side, this is the view that we would we'd like to achieve. Again, we're still at the concept stage, so the more we hear people's thoughts and ideas, these plans can help evolve towards something that we think can be very welcome by the city. So now we'll move on to our next slide. This is where it gets a little more challenging. Now we're up in the air looking straight down on the project. This is a view that you'll never see once it's complete, unless you're flying over, but it helps us explain the different pieces. So we have Hancock Street along this area, and we have East and West Squantum Street here. The current bus drop-off on the Squantum Street side, that remains where it is. The T wants to keep it there. There is a possibility of maybe doing some improvements. We think we could improve some of the pedestrian connections through that area, some of the landscaping and things like that. The basic function of the bus drop-off would remain in that location. The site itself, being as large as it is, we see an opportunity to really break it up into what we hope will look like 3 different city blocks. It's about 7 acres, and you can imagine if you were in downtown Quincy with 7 acres, how many blocks that would encumber, and that's essentially what we're dealing with here. So, and the architects will explain how from a massing and an architecture standpoint, we can break it up so, we think this will actually give the appearance of 1 block. We'll have a separate block in the middle, and then really this will look like another city block in this area. What we've done is we've proposed to put the garage in this area, so that gray structure that you see is actually the parking garage. The purpose of putting it there is it's completely buried from a streetscape standpoint and wrapped with the residential structures. So very similar to some of the proposals, some of the developments that you saw down in DC that Bozzuto's been involved with. The idea is to take the garage, which the only purpose of the garage is for the people that are coming in, parking for the day, leaving their vehicle. Today it's the main feature of the site. That's all you see is 7 acres of parking. What we're really looking to do is put that in the middle. So that's where the garage goes. It would be connected directly to the head house. So people using the garage, it's very convenient. You can park in the garage, take the elevator down, go right into the head house and down onto the platform. So it functions well, but is buried in the middle of the site. And then, you probably saw some of those other residential structures where you see a structure like this with kind of a big hole in the middle. The big hole in the middle tends to be the amenities for the residential structure. So there would be kind of outdoor amenities in those areas, potentially a pool, other type of elements. So those are kind of internal because they're used by the residents, so like in this area as well as in that area. But everything along the perimeter really, the idea is to connect it to the neighborhood, connect it to the area. So this is kind of the footprint of the residential with parking structure. Now that's all lifted up in the air because at ground level, which is the next slide, we're proposing the retail structure in this area with what is somewhat of a traditional parking field in front of it. People, particularly people from the neighborhood that are going to be driving there to go to the retail, it needs to be able to function and operate. So what would happen at ground level is you would come in the Hancock Street entrance just like you do today, and the options would be if you're coming in to just park for the day, you would come in, go to the left. This area right here is actually the ramp system that leads you up to the garage, and the garage sits right over this portion of the site. But again, it's raised 20 feet in the air, so it's nice and open and airy below it, but it basically hides those cars for the day. And then if you continue into this area, you do have somewhat of a traditional parking field, so people can park at the retail. And then because of the scale, it's a little hard to see. We've got quite a number of pedestrian elements to make it much safer and easier and welcoming for people to come into the site by foot, as well as hopefully working with the city. We're looking to open up the entrance out to Sagamore Street, which we think would ultimately be a good entrance for people to both come in by foot as well as on bicycles. Because Sagamore Street goes under Hancock Street, and then it feeds into kind of the whole Wollaston neighborhood area, as well as it continues on to Commander Shea Boulevard and will allow people coming from either Squantum or Marina Bay. So we'd love to create a bicycle route that's safe into the site that keeps the bikes off of Hancock Street. We think there's potentially that opportunity through this Sagamore Street entrance. Other than that, we've got a little bit of retail out at the street level here where we have some more frontage, and then we do have in these lighter colors, these would be residential sections that would come down, lobbies, elevators, things like that would come down to the ground level at that location. We can move on to the next slide. So today, as you enter from Hancock Street, basically this is what you see. You see the big parking lot, you see the large office building behind, and what we'd really like to create is much more welcoming for the retail restaurants at ground level with the residential above. We can move to the next slide. Just kind of walking through some of the benefits that are associated with the development, transforming the parking lot into a vibrant mixed-use community, providing the convenient retail to serve the local community. Our thoughts, one of the things we keep hearing from people is the idea of maybe having a specialty grocery store People keep bringing that up. We think that's potentially a good direction to go, but would like to hear more from you folks, more from people that live in the neighborhood. But really, retail that is servicing people that live within a mile or two of the site. We're not looking to draw people from 10 miles away. It's really to serve the immediate area in the neighborhood. Promoting the safe path to and from the station with pedestrian improvements, the safe, covered and well-lit commuter parking, which we mentioned. Some of the ongoing benefits to the city, there's about 150 new permanent jobs associated with the proposal. We'd be looking to provide the city with about $1,600,000 per year in annual real estate taxes, as well as a significant contribution to the city's affordable housing and infrastructure goals. And then for the next slide, we have kind of the one-time benefits to the city. It's about 1,100 construction jobs over the term of the construction period and about $2 million in construction permit fees. And then to the state, obviously the benefits are significant because they own the property and would be leasing it. It's over $200 million to the T in ground rent. Now, it's a 99-year lease, so we do program that rent over a 99-year period. But the T doesn't have to wait for the rent to come in every year to take advantage of that revenue stream. Once construction starts, that revenue stream is locked in. So at that point in time, if the T chose to, which they would likely do, that provides them with the capability of bonding. So they could actually, day one when we start construction, be able to bond literally tens of millions of dollars. And that's the type of revenue that they need to make the improvements to the T. And some of the things that they have underway today, as an example, many people know is, the T's been down on the weekend. Well, the reason it's been down on the weekends in the fall is they're spending $30 million. They're doing it in 2 phases, and this is the 2nd phase, but $30 million on the third rail improvements and some of the winterization of the electrical system so that we don't have the problems during the winter that we experienced a couple of years ago. So that's a significant amount of money. The T's spending that money today. In addition to that, they've also already contracted for over 100 new Red Line cars. I believe it's 132 out of the fleet of 220 that are being replaced. But again, to do that and to continue making that level of improvement, they need tens of millions of dollars to make that happen. So this revenue is important to them, but it's being put to work in a very positive way. So next. So now what we're going to do is we're going to break down into the workshops. So as I mentioned, we have our kind of infrastructure and landscape. The guys over there, they're going to be talking about really the layout of the site and get into the details of the design from that standpoint. Giles, who's in the back of the site, back of the room, with a lot of room around him, is going to be talking about the transportation side. And then we have the folks from Lazard, the architecture side, in this section of the room. So I guess what we'd like to do is see if we can break down into roughly thirds. And the goal is to be able to let them get into the details of their different disciplines, as well as have some dialogue back and forth. So if there are questions related to any one of those elements, this is a good opportunity to ask those questions. In addition to that, we are then going to come back and recap and kind of go through what we've heard from people. Because our goal tonight is to really hear from you, questions, concerns, ideas, thoughts. We're at a very early stage from a planning standpoint with this. We want to take these ideas and thoughts, have them evolve into what we hope is a proposal that we come forward with formally. This is not a formal proposal at this point, but we come back formally that is more in line with something that works with the city, meets the goals of the MBTA, and works for everybody in this area. So with that, would like to do that. If anybody has any specific questions that might be outside of that, what I'd like to do is they can actually come right over and ask me, but we'd like to move ahead with the workshops at this point. So why don't you pick one of 3. We're going to give you about 20 minutes, and then we're going to try this rotation. In the meantime, we've got lots of food and drinks in the back of the room if people are interested in that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Hi, Jeff. I was asking him what they had plans for the McDonald's building there. It's a private building, so we'll see what they want to do.
So right now, just run through a brief overview of the site plan and kind of landscape features, and then we can get into questions and discussion. Josh is going to run through the drainage and infrastructure, just to give you kind of an overview of what we're thinking are so far.
Yeah, maybe just to speak up so
Yeah. So DJ kind of ran through the existing conditions here. Just to give you an overview, within this yellow area, there's about 850 parking spaces for the T that we need to replace on site as part of this project. So the proposal we're going to run through and show you how that works. But essentially, right now, the way the site operates is you pull in here off of Hancock Street. You can drop off for access to the head house to come over down track level, and you can circulate through the park on either side of that area. There's some temporary spaces for kind of the kiss and ride location there. All of that needs to get incorporated into our new site plan. But as you mentioned, there are some out parcels that aren't part of our development. The only place we really touch Hancock Street with our development is along here, and then we're really on Sagamore Street on this frontage. Otherwise, we're looking at the Shell station, the fire station, the McDonald's, and the office building here, and then along West Squantum Street, that existing bus station and canopy is going to remain in place as well. So that's kind of the existing overview, the MBTA tracks and the office parking development beyond those tracks. You can see the high school down here to the north, and some retail along there. So from there,
Did you have a parking space for the rental car?
we're going to probably incorporate that into the garage. So we'll get into the proposed
knock it on the street, come back to work, and you can shop here. If there's a supermarket, you can shop here, and that's kind of an internal synergy, and you don't have to go down a local city system. If you're a commuter, live in the city, commute, get off the T, you can shop, pick up your groceries, and you can go home. So there's this internal synergy that really helps reduce traffic. These are nice developments on a T station. Mixed use really helps to reduce impacts. And then the final graphic here is just kind of we laid out what we think we're going to study for intersections. We're looking at 12 intersections. That's going to grow. It's going to be 15, 16, 17. So we're looking at Hancock Street all the way down. That's the big Y signal, and up to Newport Avenue. I'm sure we're going over the Hancock Bridge. That intersection there, that's your career, you know, that problematic intersection. We provide the intersection on Squantum Street on one side,
street
and then also
street lighting, furnishings, trash receptacles, to really reinforce that street character about Hancock. And then at the next level, Josh, if you could pass me that. The next level up, as you come in that ramp I mentioned, you'll be accessing a parking structure that's multiple levels. That's really where we replace all of that 852 parking spaces that we're displacing from the T. But we're also providing our residential parking within that parking deck footprint as well. So certainly
What ramp access we will proposing?
Come in the entrance off Hancock Street, and you would access ramps to that garage right here.
So your actual entrance still remains the same off of Hancock?
That's right.
With no additional entrances other than perhaps maybe your Sagamore?
It will be more of a service related.
So that won't be for regular commuters that are going to try and get into the city?
Could come in there, but everyone parking for the T has to come through this ramp system, and all of the
I would say that probably the affordable housing needs to be they have to
live in a place like this, they have to make probably $50,000. And I would hope these units.
When we all rotate groups, he's going to get into more detail on how the traffic works, how the signalization works, how the access through the site.
I'm going to run his job. The full ass is going to get beat up.
He's good at it though, and he'll be able to explain much better than I can how they're assuming the trips are going to work. I just kind of wanted to give everyone an overview, Jack.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I can't explain it.
There's a parking lot behind Home Street. Does that belong to the T?
You're talking over here. Is this Holmes here?
Yeah, there's a parking lot there.
I don't believe that's. There is additional T parking right down here.
It's behind the Home Street.
I'm not sure.
This, if I can point that out on the plan. There is some surface parking associated with the T that's on the opposite side of the tracks that's connected to this site through this head house stair structure here. So it's not right on Home Street, it's on the other side of the tracks.
No, there was that area.
You're talking more in this direction?
Chipotle restaurant.
On the other side of the tracks.
Did you have a question about that?
Is that affiliated?
Right, so that's not part of this.
Yeah, so
We're doing all this.
So we identify all that. I would tell you that
Our lease line is
an 18-unit development is a big traffic generator, but the hotel, and there's 100 units. Right.
Try to get over the bridge.
Right. So again, we identify all that with the city, and that's in the analysis. So when now report, there'll be a list of every development we've identified and incorporated into the study.
What's going on, my man? Parking, driving, now they're parking 50, 60 cars under the bridge. Where are these cars from? They all got incentives to park, use the MBTA, they go from the station to their workplace, now they're parking under the bridge. 50, 60 cars. It's not even a parking area.
And they're parking there because they don't want to pay.
No, they don't want to go on their site because they can't get on their site. On Hancock, they can't turn into, they can't get into one site.
The residential side is a 0.5 roughly. 0.5 per unit. No, it's a 0.5, which we think works very well with transit.
So it's what we're doing. It's kind of a shared parking model where nights and weekends, when there aren't commuters that are, most of the people that park in the lot today, they're there work hours, right? And a little bit after and a little bit before when they're commuting to and from work. So the idea is that we're going to be sharing to deal with the T, that some of our residents will be able to use nights and weekends parking if they are commuting and will be using their car during the day, but then we'll have additional parking 24/7. Okay.
Roughly, we're not a final number, but the other thing that's important to note is retail. We have surface parking lot, not a part of those tabulations either. And they're convenient for the retailer. We assume roughly 260 spaces roughly for the retailer. So when you think of parking, there's no reduction in the MBTA. We're parking our residential, even though we are doing shared parking, and the retail is also parking separately.
So is there a surfeit of parking right now? Do we have more spaces right now than we need?
Right now the T's calculations are that it's 70 to 90% occupied?
70-90%, because with the development in Marina Bay, that means more cars going to North Quincy, not fewer.
They have shuttles as part of the development.
Then we also have buses, they have bus drop-offs also. She had the question.
Cars on Squantum Street.
You had the one question.
Some of mine are what she asked, but you said that on you made agreement of the T so that residents will be able to have other comply with it, they don't have space on the road.
Well, they're in negotiations, so nothing's final. That's what we're trying to get. But what we're looking at is on the weekend, the current T parking lot of 800 plus spaces.
If the development is as good as the food, it will be good.
Gary's doing a traffic study here. There's a separate traffic line, which is the red line. Who's going to be doing a traffic analysis of capacity at the red line, what's needed? We will look at that. So, is that you? I'm sorry, but is that you or is that somebody else that specializes?
We will do that, yes, we will. So we will be talking to we're working with the MBTA now. We can get you, I can get you ridership information, I can get you capacity today, and I can get you the capacity in the future of when that's going to come online. I just don't have those answers for you right now. Okay. So, but that's
If you're working with them, would there be potential to have express trains to lighten the load, or shuttle buses to JFK Mass where the Ashmont train comes in that has its capacity at this point?
I don't know
like
about
she
express
said,
trains.
there is no more room on rail time,
Right.
especially in North Quincy.
Again, there's a similar situation, quite frankly, in Cambridge, the same situation, the red line. They're going to be adding trains and adding efficiency to increase that capacity. I honestly don't know.
You're talking about one station. You're talking about North Quincy. You're not talking about
Just to discuss landscape briefly, it's a very urban site. There are opportunities to provide wide sidewalks and street trees. We'll be doing that along Hancock Street, internal to the site. And then we are going to have courtyard amenity spaces that are going to be above the parking, essentially, that the residential units would have access to. But that streetscape, public realm, will be a lot of emphasis put on decorative lighting, furnishings, special paving. So that's all. More to come on the detail on that, but that's the plan so far. The retail component here is also going to have a pedestrian entrance from West Squantum, not a vehicular entrance, but we really see this as a major view corridor and a real interesting gateway feature. So that's you're sort of looking at the end of that right here, where there'd be kind of a rooftop terrace on top of that retail that is at the level of the bus station on that West Squantum roadside.
Okay, if I can get everybody's attention, we're going to see if we can make this work now with a rotation. So how about if we rotate in this direction so that people that are at the architecture that would like to hear about the transportation, they could shift in that direction. And then the people that are over here on the site infrastructure, they could maybe shift around towards me to the architecture. And then the people in transportation shift up to site and infrastructure. We'll give this a shot. If you want to stay at whatever discipline you're at because you're more interested in that, that's fine as well. But to the extent people want to go to each of the three locations, now would be a good time to shift. And I'll give you one more reminder in about 20 minutes. We'll do one more shift after this. I'll also remind everybody there's a lot of food in the back that hopefully will be gone by the time we leave. Thank you.
We're going to raise it up. It's in a known floodplain. It's land subject to coastal flooding. We're raising it up to the flood.
Don't call me. These guys don't call me.
No, but it's almost like they have 25 just because like you hear like they say this is well, you know, it's almost like what the people want is better. Zoning code. But I would love to talk to you.
And then our website is up No, Bazooka is our partner. So they do, in some cases they're a development manager, in some cases they just third-party management. So in Marina Bay, the owners there are just managers. So they manage Deco as well. They didn't develop it. Yeah, so are they going to? They'll manage it. Well, they're actually co-developing it. So they do two things. They sometimes develop. They do a lot of management. They also development. Some of the Marina Bay Deco they manage. They also I'm actually building it really hard about yeah, so that's what it is. No, we've done other
We're taking your picture in there too, man.
It's